Hello, welcome to this Occhi interview. My name is Kendra and I'm here with Alicia. Um, Thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to have you here and ask you some questions. The way this interview will work is I'll ask you a few questions, Alicia will ask a few questions, we'll kind of bounce between us and find a way to have a conversation that way together. So I'll pass on to Alicia first to introduce herself.
But yeah, my name's Alicia, if you didn't already know already. But we'll just continue the introduction circle. Sheila, if you wanted to go first.
Hi, I'm Sheila Maurice-Grey. I play trumpet, Kokoroko, and yeah, hello.
Yeah, I'm Onome from Kokoroko, also play percussion.
Sensational.
What are your individual journeys into music and how did you find each other?
Did you point at me, Sheila?
Yeah.
I think I grew up my mum used to manage or run a big arts program. And she was a dancer and performer. So as a kid, I was kind of obliged to participate. She wanted me to dance and I refused to dance. So I ended up playing drums and playing percussion and doing all kinds of random things. She always had us doing some extracurricular activities. So it was like just a part of my childhood that I kind of fell out of in my early 20s until meeting Sheila and kind of it becoming more of a focus again. And we met because we were working together. Sheila's an amazing painter, so she was teaching painting at a program that I was working at. And yeah, she's been putting up with me ever since, somehow, for better or worse.
You make it sound like marriage. I got into music because of church. I was always intrigued with like other musicians playing in church, so I would like try and work out stuff that way. And then my mom kind of got me involved in a few programs outside of school. And it wasn't until I went to secondary school and I went to a girls' school and it had a really good music department and there were like a bunch of like loads of girls like playing loads of different like obscure instruments. So yeah, I ended up playing trumpet, not necessarily out of choice as well, just because my teacher told me that I should. But then I kind of fell in love with it when I did this like a summer school. I was 14, did a summer school in South London called Connecticut Blocko, and it was just a whole bunch of young black kids either dancing, playing percussion, like drums, or playing brass. So it was like really inspiring to see like so many people that look like me, girls and boys, mainly like black girls and boys, playing, and it was just amazing. It was very inspiring. Yeah.
That's amazing. Wait, Kendra, I think you're on mute. I didn't hear what you said.
Oh yeah,
I was in my internet.
I said that sounds amazing, like really inspiring environment to be in, especially at that age.
Yeah.
Can have a big impact on what you then decide to do in future.
How did you guys start playing music together?
We always tell this story. We try and change it every time a little, but we were. Actually, I think the first time we played together was at a fundraiser. Is that right, Sheila?
Yep.
Yeah, we were fundraising. We were the place we were working. We done projects like around the world in different places, and we were fundraising to go and like work on a project in Kenya. And it's hard to make the money, so we put on a gig. But properly, it was when we were in Kenya. We were listening to a lot of music, and I think we had a lot of conversations, and we kind of like some similar things. And out of that, like the inspiration for the band, or the idea for starting our band, kind of was born. And when we came back from Kenya, I think a month or two later, we booked the first gig. Sheila booked the first gig and pulled in a few musicians. Had some really weird rehearsals in distant places with people that would never even actually play. Yeah, you remember that?
Oh my god!
Actually played in the band, but yeah, the band was born through, I guess, that month we had together in Kenya, and like the music we had downloaded before we got out there.
Yeah.
How did the?
I have nothing to add. I'm just remembering all the weird places that we went to.
How did the other members come to join?
So like Onome was saying, like we kind of had like a selection of musicians that we kind of just were playing with when we were playing covers, and the lineup interchanged so much. We've had so many different like drummers and horn players, but the core of the band at the time were musicians that we'd have either gone to music college or we had done other like music programs like Tomorrow's Warriors, and then a few of the other guys who are in the band now have come through recommendation or like stalking people online and asking them to join in on rehearsals. But yeah, it's just kind of been like really interesting, kind of how we've kind of come to where we are with the current lineup we have now.
Have you found the process of like switching out people, if that makes sense?
It's different. I think sometimes it's like it's felt really natural, like just through need or adding someone in because we needed another element. And it's sometimes been hard. I think with all things, like it's relationships really. So yeah, sometimes people move on and there's a big gap, or like the relationships haven't gone perfectly, and then sometimes it's just felt like really exciting having new people in. I think it's a thing we're learning about more and more, like with people, like having this amount of people together, like and trying to get in everyone's creativity is such a it's a beautiful, sensitive, like tricky thing that has, I guess, like learning to manage it as you get it wrong more than you get it right. And I think
it's just relationships on a massive scale.
Yeah, for real. And like trying to always land on like what's the purpose of us being here together, and like do we all buy into this? And if we all buy in, we're good, and there's a way to work. And I think that's kept us going and kept everyone that whilst they've been in the band, that's been the thing we all shared.
What is your purpose?
Ooh, Akilanda. Okay. I guess the core of the reason why we kind of came together was to honor music, specifically from Afrobeat and high life, and with that, like some influences from jazz. And I think most recently, especially with the last album, I think we really sat down and brainstormed a lot of ideas of what we wanted our sound to be and what we wanted to kind of put out there. And I think it was really important for us to kind of really hone in on our individual sound as individuals and as a band. And I think that's been really interesting because of that, or like during that journey, I think we had to kind of let go of certain pressures of like trying to recreate an Afrobeat album or having to recreate a high life album. We're never going to do that. It's never going to really match up to the, like the Iba Taylors and Fela Kutis. So we just really kind of really focused on what our sound is. And I guess that's our purpose, isn't it? And then like essentially at the same time honoring those who came before us as well.
And I think on top of that, like more and more, like when you say, Sheila, that we've like realized kind of the impact that music can kind of have on people. Like you travel around the world and your music has impacted people all over. And it's kind of like, you realize it's your gift. It takes on its own life. You put it in the world and it takes on its own life. It affects people in all kind of ways. And I'm definitely, and I think we've spoken about being more aware of like, okay, cool, we have an opportunity to kind of put something into people's life or put something into the world that can affect people in a certain way. Like, what do we want that gift to be? And I think like for me, more and more, it's about like finding finding a way to make that add a richness to people's lives, or add conversation or question or beauty or thought and or fun. Like fun's a big one, man. Just enjoyment, I think, and like bringing that as much as we can. I think that's something we speak about more and more as a band. Just that power we have, or at least I speak about it. I don't know. Sheila's probably sick of me.
Not go for the man. I agree.
So in honoring the music that comes before you, I know that you've done a lot of covers, or you began doing covers together. So how did you transition from that into original compositions, especially with the group?
Yeah, I guess it's just essentially. I don't know. Actually, Onome, you answer that question.
I think it was hard. Like we at first, you know, when you're on stage and there's so much energy, you're getting like crowd reaction, and even when you're playing bad, the energy is if you've got the right energy on stage, people interact with you people are excited, people give you energy back. And so when we started recording, we were playing the same way we played on stage, and then listening back at it was hurting our heads, man. Even the first EP, when we listened to it, it doesn't sound like what it felt like or what we wanted to feel like. So when we were writing the last album, we spent a lot of time like, what is the energy of the music, and like how do we get that energy onto a record? It's not going to be the same way as we get that energy out to a crowd. And I think, yeah, with writing the songs, at first we were probably writing for live, like trying to create moments that were exciting and that made people dance, or like, oh, we need a slow song, so let's write a slow song that works on stage. And then I think as we started like recording more, we saw, I don't know, writing just becomes more exciting. Your mind starts opening up to narrative and stories and moments. And I think on that album, that was a big thing. A lot of the songs they came from like personal moments or personal narratives. And then some of them was like, oh no, look, I want to create a celebration moment. I think like with We Give Thanks, that was quite, I don't know, it was a feeling that we wanted, and it's just right into that feeling. So I don't know if that's answering your question, but we write in all kinds of ways, and we kind of have each individually taken things and then brought them into the room, or like sat in a room and everyone's playing and a little idea comes up and it's like, oh, we should store that and make something out of it. It's never been like that refined way of writing. It's just like where creativity comes from, kind of trying to give it a space to grow.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that did. I like it unfolded in quite a natural way. Nice. And just like improvisation happened in the moment, but then like you decide that was something you wanted to do, like investigate more together.
Yeah, I think that's one of the ways, and then but also like a lot of it is honestly people like one of us alone, or like now one or two of us sitting together and really like working things out or going through ideas. It's definitely changing and growing. Songwriting's like it's a hard thing, but it's a beautiful thing. And as we learn more, I think that's becoming more and more of an exciting part. Like for us, before we were geared towards live shows mostly, and we were writing occasionally. So often it came through like an inspired moment, or just like let's capture that. Whereas now it's like, oh, we want to write albums and we want to create good albums that they kind of last forever. And so let's lean into that and spend more time really honing in on ideas and developing them. Is that right, Sheila?
Mm-hmm. I wonder, when did that shift like happen from like the focus from live shows to albums? Was there something that triggered that?
Having to write an album.
Okay.
We literally had to write an album. I guess it forced us, and we've been together for a while, so I guess it was always this pressing thing of we actually need to like release an album. And there was pressure. There is always pressure when you release your first ever like official project.
Yeah.
It's different from an EP. There's a lot more seriousness. There's a lot more attention that's been given to you, which is like, all right, okay, this is what these guys are saying, and this it almost is like depending on how you approach it, it can really dictate your career. And I guess we wanted to do it in such a way where we had options, and I think we kind of did that with the last album, which is it was quite open in terms of like the different sounds that we were trying to capture, and I think from there we can go in different avenues, which is quite freeing. Actually, I think it's been quite positive.
How have you been preparing for the live show coming up? Because I imagine there's been like it's quite different over the past couple of years with like COVID and whatnot. How are you preparing to go back into that space?
I think it's like with Meltdown, we haven't even started yet. We've been writing, so we're going to record throughout the whole of June, record our next album. We're taking a week off in the middle for the festival. So we're lucky enough to have like shows every week, every couple of weeks, where we can like kind of build a set and work things out. And I think like we definitely like don't rehearse all the time as a band, but when we do, we invest like a lot of time, a few days, and just like really refining 2 or 3 sets, so we can then like adapt it and grow it. Like with every show, we'll just change a little bit, take a bit of this set, add a few songs in to keep it like different for every audience and different for ourselves. And then I think with Meltdown Festival it's such a different, like, because that's a Royal Festival Hall, such a different stage and venue for us. We've been talking about, do we want to, like, how do we play to the venue? Do you kind of ignore where you are and try and like just deconstruct it with, or change the way people interact, or switch it up, or do you lean into that venue and try and play a set that kind of maybe fits that venue a bit more? Both of which can be like quite exciting or beautiful and are a challenge, because it's always going to be different. But I think like over lockdown, we had like some of our best gigs where I remember being in Rome, and it was like an all seated gig. No one was allowed to stand up. And like that, it was super fun, because our thing was like, all right, cool, let's play in a way that changes the way this audience like can interact with us. Normally everyone would be standing and dancing, and it's like, what can we do to still make this engaging, exciting and fun for ourselves within that settings? So we had like a little run of shows that I think were good preparation for this one.
Yeah. And we've been lucky enough within a whole year to play in London at some really great venues. This will be like the third one we've done in the space of a year, or just over a year, which I think is very, very like I feel like we're in such a privileged position. And with that comes a lot of pressure, because we've done other shows, and it's like, you can't really do the same thing, or can you?
You
so
want
I think,
to,
huh?
You want to, innit?
Not necessarily. I feel like, yeah, because even the last 2 shows have been, it was similar music, but it was so different in energy. And I think this one's going to be another one. Even if we play the same set, it's just going to be completely different.
It's mad how that works. You could play the same set in a different venue, different crowd, and it feels like a completely different show. Like every song feels completely different.
Exactly. But yeah, I'm really excited actually. I think it's an honor to like be part of that lineup with Christine and the Queens. I think she's really created a really sick lineup for the festival.
Amazing. Who are some of your personal inspirations, whether it's music or other disciplines?
I think personal music, of recent, I think what has really like changed my approach to kind of, especially being a horn player first. And I love jazz, but I've never really been like a strictly jazz head. I love like, I was going to say secular music, but that's not the right word. I was going to say like pop music, but like I've never really kind of fit into any of those. So like listening to Donald Byrd, I don't know if you guys know Donald Byrd, but like his stuff in like the 80s and 70s, I think it's like really sick how he kind of made like the trumpet accessible. And I think that's really kind of changed my viewpoint on like writing music. And at the same time, Patrice Rushen as well, who is like a sick jazz pianist, who is like a mini Herbie Hancock, but has written so many like great hits that everyone knows, even if they don't know her. I think that's really kind of opened my viewpoint. And another one I would say is Earth, Wind and Fire as well. Like their music is so complicated, but once again, so many people love their music, and I find that really intriguing. Like you can make music that's very complex but accessible for everyone to love and feel like they are a part of the music as well. Yeah.
Amazing. What about you, Onome?
I don't know. I think like if you're talking about music, I think like maybe when Sheila met me, I was like, I listened to a lot of like hip hop production, and it kind of that's where I was. I was like full into J Dilla and Pete Rock, and that was like a blessing for me at the time. Not all I listened to. I think growing up in London, I was very much into whatever was happening here. I was a little grime kid, but hip hop and like especially like 90s and early 2000s hip hop kind of opened the world to me, because there was so much sampling, and I was like, I was nerding out about records. I always wanted to know, oh, where did this sample come from? Where did they find this? And so just open avenues to so much music, because they were sampling records from all over the world. And like, I think even when we talk, I know a lot of bands, and my perspective on them is open because of that. Like when we talk about Azimuth, or like went to Johan, our keys player, done an Ahmad Jamal gig the other day. All of these people I know from hip hop records that use their records. That was a blessing. Yeah. So I think that was my early influence. And then in our house, there's a lot of West African music, a lot of Senegalese music. Youssou N'Dour and Fela played a lot. Yeah, off the top of my head, those are easy ones though.
Amazing. I didn't ask, what are you guys' heritage?
My mom is from Sierra Leone and my dad's from Guinea-Bissau, but I grew up with my stepdad from South Africa and Zimbabwe.
Amazing.
And I'm Nigerian Irish.
Oh, sick.
What about you both?
I'm from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's like a small island in the Caribbean.
Nice.
I'm from Nigeria and Grenada.
Nice. Nigeria, Grenada.
Yeah. I'm interested in like your own personal journey and connection with your instruments, and like what your personal practice is with your instrument, by yourself, and then with the group.
No practice.
No practice.
Do you know what though? I'll be honest. I've always struggled with practice, and I think that was the thing that deterred me away from trumpet, because it did require a lot of like practice and daily dedication. And honestly, I've never been that person, and only recently I was like, you know what, I think that is, I do think you do need to practice. I'm not against practice, but I do think it's also okay if you're not that type of person. I think some of us work well with others, and I work so much better when I'm playing with other people, doing more gigs and listening to other people play. I think a lot of us are like that. Yeah, so I think it's been an interesting journey. There was definitely a time where I practiced like every day, religiously, like 2 hours a day. But life happens, and things change, and there are times where you're going to be in practice and times when you're not going to be in practice.
Yeah, I think maybe it's kind of similar to Sheila, but a bit different. I played as a kid, and it was always something that I was like, in our house, we all like, there were loads of drums in our house, so there were like 5 boys between me and our neighbours downstairs, and my neighbours downstairs, they're both like percussion teachers, like either Senegalese percussion or the women played congas, and my auntie played congas, and so we had that growing up, and we were quite competitive. and I was the oldest, so I was a little bit ahead of all the other, like me and my cousin. I was a little bit ahead of everyone. So there's always something I had, like, I'll be the best at this, like within my age group, wherever I go as a kid. And I was like playing djembes or African percussion, and like every once in a while our school would have something, and it was like, especially in primary school, that was the thing I could be the best at. With me being a little, I wasn't the best behaved child at school, so it was like a sense of pride, and it really maybe rooted my sense of self in that I didn't feel so. I always felt like whatever it is, there's something I'm great at, which is interesting because I think as I get older, like I was never focused on it. I never practiced enough because it was quite natural. So I never got to the level I guess I would have loved to or imagined I could have. And then I stopped playing like in my teens. And when I see other percussionists now, when I was younger, it's like that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be this guy that was like like a virtuoso, or like at the front of the stage. But as I got older, that's not really how I enjoy music. And now I think music, I love the playing, as Sheila said, playing in a group and like finding pockets of space and the communication between different instruments. It's more about facilitating like a sound or an experience, and like whatever instrument you play, I think is like a tool to do that, to make the group better. And I need to practice more and play more to raise my personal level, but on stage, I like, to my detriment sometimes, and sometimes it's a plus. It's always about like fitting in and like enabling and creating space for other people, and finding a way to like use my instrument to enrich like the whole. So when I listen to music or play or whatever, that's where my mind's at. And maybe me and Sheila should go somewhere and practice for a month or something. It probably help the band. But I think both of us as well, in our roles with the band, right, we're responsible for everyone, and like kind of that often takes precedent over our personal playing, our personal instrument, because your mind is just everywhere.
Can you talk a bit more about that responsibility?
I guess. It's exactly what Onome said. Like, I guess you're always thinking like 10 steps ahead, and I guess it's been a really interesting journey, because I think we've definitely kind of essentially led the band for the past how many years, and that leading has kind of crossed over into like potentially like managing the band as well. And only recently we've actually gotten management where they've been way more hands-on. So that's been a really interesting process for us as well, where we've now had time to focus more on the music, which is a blessing as well. So I think it's been a challenge, kind of balancing managing the band versus playing versus managing your relationship with everyone, because we're all adults, but as adults we don't always want to be told what to do by our peers as well. So now I think that's been
ourselves especially, isn't it?
I think we're the worst. We're definitely the worst. I would say I'm probably the worst. But that's been a really interesting journey, and a journey I will never kind of I don't regret in any way. I think it's been such a big learning curve, like learning how to deal with people, learning how to deal with yourself, like being self-aware. I think that's been a big challenge and a big lesson.
And then also it's with creativity and creative people. And like, what's that line? I'm an artist, I'm sensitive about my shit. Like, that's the environment you're in, even on stage, like constantly. Like whenever anyone's playing anything, if you react the wrong way, we always learn like, yo, you looked at me in this song, like, and
usually for the whole show. I've looked at someone wrong.
and it's like learning that. So we'll be on stage and I'm thinking, this person looks like they're having a hard gig. This person's not moving a lot. How do we make this happen on stage? Like, what can you communicate? Are you going to communicate through playing faster, playing harder, or saying something, or shouting, or just like it's constantly like trying to make that decision, and like maybe you shouldn't, maybe you should just go for it, and that example will spread. But I guess it's a thing we're constantly like adapting and learning and like talking about.
Yeah, I think there's no like right or wrong way to do it.
Yeah,
everyone is so different in the band. Everyone's got like different personalities and sensitivities as well. Yeah.
What do you see for the future of the band? Just thinking about how you mentioned getting management and how that's changed a bit, like allowing you to focus a bit more on the music.
I think the thing that we both agree is that I think being a musician and I guess a group, a band, an artist, it's sometimes can be very short-lived. And I think trying our best to take as much opportunity as we can to push the project as much as we can is the best thing I think we can do at the moment. And I think we're just trying to really expand on our writing, how we perform and the stages that we play on and how we connect with our audiences. I think that's the main goal. I think as we are pushing like our boundaries, I think we're also kind of laying the foundation for other people, younger and older, to do the same and more. I always think about like some of the older people that came before us, maybe like even Shabaka, who's not that much older, but if he didn't do some of the gigs that he has done, or the Solanges or Beyonce's, whatever, like we wouldn't be. Like, I think it would be a much different story than, not like it wouldn't happen, but it would definitely be like a different challenge, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like on top of that, like with ourselves personally, we haven't maybe like even explored our like creativity as much as we could. I think like the blessing of having so many people and working in the way that we are is we got 6-7 people's ideas and 6-7 people's personalities that can create something. And I think like with having management and I think the opportunity that I think if it goes right over the next couple of years doing bigger gigs, so we don't have to tour as much as we have. Like this year's so blessed. We're doing like really nice shows all year as opposed to doing shows.
And we're really poor.
And we're really what?
We're really poor as a result.
Really poor as a result, but we got time. But yeah, like having that time to create and write is something completely new to us. And like I think we've been writing 2-3 days a week together, like me and Sheila at least, and the other guys as well. And it's completely changed, I think, the stuff we're writing. And like how we feel about it and how attached you are to ideas. And it's going to be, I think, nice over time putting out music that we didn't rush and we didn't like create only in pressure, which, yeah, I don't think we have any idea what that's going to sound like. It's kind of an exciting thing to grow into.
Thank you. Alicia?
I was just wondering, we were talking about instruments earlier. Do you guys play any other instruments, even if it's casually?
Badly, everything. Awfully.
What instruments on the
No, nothing at all. A computer.
You could play keys? Oh, come on, man. And you play percussion, so like percussion, technically you're playing loads of instruments.
Thank you, Sheila. You're very kind.
I know you.
I think, do you know what? Like when you're writing, you can work something out, but and I think all things that make sound, you can work something out of, like, or try and make them sound good. Apart from guitar, I don't understand that instrument at all. But my hands don't work with it. But
you got big hands. It's like, sorry. Or you can play bass, maybe.
Yeah, bass is fine. But I think, all of us, like when we, especially after sound check, everyone's on a different instrument. Like it happens all the time. Like we'll be driving everyone in the venue crazy because we're playing something that sounds awful. But I think it's the fun thing of being around 6-7 musicians. You're picking up things and learning things all the time from their instrument. Sheila plays a lot of stuff.
No, I don't.
You play keys really beautifully.
Do you know what? I want to learn flute. I'm going to learn flute. Yeah.
Is there anything you want to learn, Onome?
Yeah, I want to learn keys, and I want to learn. I want to play drum kit better, because I feel like I should be able to, and I don't understand why I can't. Because I play.
You don't play bad, actually, though, Kit.
Yeah. It's in my hands to do the thing all the time. I have something in my head, and I'm trying to put it down, and it's just not coming out.
Yeah. No, but I think you would get it quick.
It's practice, innit?
Yeah. And Dwayne in the band, he plays really nice guitar. Like, he plays bass, but he plays really beautiful guitar. And most of the guys can sing as well. Yeah.
What are your interests like outside of music or that support music? Like you mentioned fundraising and painting. I feel like there's a lot of different things happening around the music.
I think recently, I think for some reason I put pressure on myself to kind of like get into songwriting. So I think recently I've been like trying to like get more into like writing or gather like phrases that I really like. I think I don't know if that's an official hobby, but I think that's something I've really enjoyed recently creatively. Yeah. How about you, Onome?
I think, you're writing, just on that, I haven't said it, but I might as well say it here. You're writing, since you decided to write more, your writing has changed completely. You've like trusted yourself, and your writing, like it's really nice. It's quite beautiful. So like, yeah, you didn't trust yourself before, and since you decided to like open that side up, you're writing completely differently. And Sheila's bangs gym as well. Sheila's in the gym. I think that's your official hobby.
Fair enough, actually.
Yeah, you're in
That's
the gym
been
with
recent.
anyone I know.
That's embarrassing.
I think for me, I play a lot of sports, and I've got into running a lot, which has been really, yeah. I never like longer distance running, being just signing up for random half marathons.
You've done 3 half marathons
Last
year.
Which would be nice, like on tour and stuff, just being able to like run in the morning and like go out. Like, I'm Nigerian, I don't feel like my body is really built for that stuff. So trying to get myself to do longer distances have been good. And then what else? I like writing and film a lot. I think before
Photography.
and photography, yeah. Before music, I think my passion was definitely writing. And films. That's what I wanted to do. So I think that's something. Sometimes with music, I miss out on that, but I've definitely been trying to read more and write a little bit more.
How do you balance your time being part of the band?
I don't think we do balance our time, but I think one thing that we've been good at of recent, which is when we don't feel up to like creating, or we don't feel up to, we just need a bit of a break. I think we just communicate that. We're like, okay, I think we just need a day off today. Just need feeling a bit frazzled. Just need some time. Or we'll come to the studio and be like, don't feel like making anything. Let's go for a walk. So I think just being intuitive to how you feel. I think because it's such a delicate process, you've got to be in a good space to be able to create. So I think being listening to both to each other, and then listening to ourselves as well.
I think it's one of those ones that if you don't create, if you wear yourself out today, tomorrow is going to go badly, or the whole week might go south. And it's like, what's the energy today? Are we good? And that's with everyone in the band. I think just like trusting that. How do you feel? All right, cool. Let's listen to that. Let's go eat. And then the energy you have, or the excitement you have to come in and see each other the next day is completely different because of that. Yeah.
Can I ask you guys the same question?
Yes.
I'm just curious.
About balance?
Yeah.
Alicia, you can go first.
You're gonna put me first. I think the same. I'm like a master procrastinator, but it's to my detriment because I always get it done. If that makes sense, I'm a very last minute. Like I just take one day at a time, and I think I do need to learn balance because probably my lifestyle isn't sustainable as more responsibilities pile on. So I think I'm learning that. If I'm honest, yeah. What you, Kendra?
Kind of similar to what's been said. I feel like I'm kind of now just learning not to overload myself and that I actually can stop before complete burnout, and then that by resting today I can make tomorrow the best that it can be, and like just learning more about conserving energy because I don't think that I've been operating with the most energy. And you want to be able to give that to the things that you're creating and working on, because then they'll be different as well, the outcome. So
Yeah. And, yeah. I always find that like if I do something crazy the night before, like right to like 3 or 4 a.m., then the next day I'm not just the only one that's suffering. Onome is gonna suffer too. So being aware of like how it affects other people as well. Yeah.
How do you not feel stressed about the future while you're relaxing, if that makes sense?
I think there's like financial stress definitely, but if you take away like stressing about finance, especially with creativity, I think like learning that things kind of just live, and like when you create something, say like the album we have, or like people come up to you and tell you stories of it, or you hear like, oh, by the way, this happened with the album this week, and learning that like the single days aren't really that important. Like it's time doesn't really work in that way. And I think that we grow up, it's all there's this idea of like, you have to kill it every day. You have to get up early and drill work. And like, if you're not doing that, you're not on it. You're not serious about your future. And I don't think that's real. And it's like the sum of what you create and what you put out. If it takes you 5 years to create something wonderful, but you create something magnificent and you manage to live well for those 5 years, did you waste I can't say I wasted a single day. And like I think like learning that and like seeing that actually work in practice, even the songs that we didn't love, like the weeks that went badly, still amounted to something that's kind of provided us with a career and an opportunity to do beautiful things. So like you have to listen to that, and I think really appreciate it and value it, and also adapt your life kind of based on that, because yeah, like why not? You have to it's a short time, you got to enjoy it, man, and you got to feel good as you move through the world, I think.
That's such a great answer.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. It's been really great.
Thank you for the great questions. Really good.
Thank you very much.
Really put me on the spot, personally.
Good, we're glad.
Yeah, thank you.